Hey guys, Cooking Medic here with another DayZ guide. Today we'll be covering solo PvP. This video will be part of a multi-part series on PvP concepts due to it being such an expansive and varied topic. If you haven't seen our two previous guides, I'll link to the playlist right up here. If you're a newer player, these guides can give you the tools you need to account for your basic needs first. Regardless of what you're on this channel to learn, before moving on to our more advanced PvP guides, I'd recommend watching this first. You can view this guide as the base, the fundamentals that you need to know to be better, whether you be going it alone or moving with a team. While I'm by no means a subject matter expert, my real-world military experience coupled with my many hours in both DayZ and the Arma series have given me some insight as to what works best for keeping myself alive. Without further ado, let's get into the video. I've included timestamps in the description for anybody here looking for a specific topic. And while I have your attention, consider hitting the like button if you like the video, dislike it if you don't, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. DayZ isn't just a survival game. DayZ is a survival game with a massive open world, realistic ballistics, and a super low time to kill. This makes it a decent tactical shooter as well. After all, most players come into the game are ultimately after PvP in the end of it. That being said, if you want to be good at PvP, you need to think, shoot, and move tactically. Whenever you're looking for PvP in DayZ, at your core, you're a rifleman. This means you move primarily on foot and you fight primarily with a rifle or other small arms. So today, I'm going to teach you what you need to know to be the best rifleman you can in-game. We'll cover your gear setup, stats you should know, weapons handling, movement, and some basic tactics. This will form the base moving forward into our more advanced and team-based guides. As always, we need to cover the boring stuff first, stats. First up is fatigue. Fatigue in DayZ is represented by a bar in the lower left hand of your screen and is directly tied to your character's weight. This stat is simple. The more weight a character has in their inventory, the less fatigue they have access to. Your level of fatigue affects how long you can sprint and whether or not you can vault over low walls and obstacles. This is particularly important in PvP as mobility is a huge factor in who wins a fight. Being able to sprint, jump, and vault are all things that you need to be able to do in a firefight. An experienced fighter will carry only what they absolutely need to have on them. You don't need to have more than one primary weapon, one melee weapon, and one sidearm such as a pistol. If you find yourself caught with your pants down, however, you have a few options. You can use an EpiPen, which will give you unlimited fatigue for 3 minutes. Alternatively, if you're particularly desperate, you can drop your backpack. The second stat to cover is accuracy. Accuracy in DayZ is affected by the attachments a weapon has equipped. In short, the more attachments you have, the less accurate your weapon becomes. So ask yourself, do you need a flashlight on your AK? Probably not. Some attachments, however, such as the Mosin compensator, actually improve accuracy and reduce recoil. The third stat we need to cover is weapons handling. Each weapon has a Dexterity modifier, which affects how quickly you can turn with the weapon sighted on a target. In short, smaller weapons have a higher Dexterity. Like accuracy, Dexterity is negatively impacted based on how many attachments you have equipped on your weapon. Seriously, stop looting flashlights. The fourth stat is weapon sway. Your weapon sway is affected by your fatigue. The lower your fatigue, the more your weapon will sway back and forth while aimed down the sight. It is also affected by your stance. Crouching or going prone will help you keep on target better. Additionally, it's affected by your breathing control. You can press left control to hold your breath, which will temporarily halt weapon sway for as long as you have the fatigue to do so. Weapon sway is also affected by your health, which at lower levels causes your weapon to sway more. With that out of the way, let's cover your gear setup. Your gear setup is very important. Fatigue can win or lose firefights. You should plan accordingly and only pack what you need. Too many players bog themselves down with multiple guns, full-sized axes, and other random crap you don't need. Stop it. Break the cycle. If you can't move, you can't shoot. Learn to only carry the essentials. We'll split our loadout into two categories: our combat load and our sustainment load. Our combat load is everything you'll need to survive a firefight. We'll put this inside of our vest, shirt, or pants, everything except your backpack. We'll cover why in a bit. In DayZ, your average firefight doesn't last too long. And remember, we want to be able to move, so we need to carry the essentials here. Make sure you have loaded magazines, some loose ammo in case you need to reload, any grenades you might have, and medical supplies. And that's it. Some tertiary equipment such as a rangefinder can also be helpful, but not entirely necessary. Keep all of this equipment neat, organized, and in good condition so that it doesn't fail when you need it. Our sustainment load goes into our backpack, and it's everything we don't need if we get shot at. If you're lugging a car battery, this is for you. Think sewing kits, extra food, and anything else you aren't afraid of losing. As previously mentioned, we do this so that we can quickly drop our backpack in a firefight. I know, that sounds insane. Drop my gear, but I worked hard for it. That doesn't matter. When you're getting shot at, you can't afford to be a hoarder. Fatigue is incredibly important. It's better to lose a backpack full of junk than it is to lose that AK on your back and end up in Kamishovo begging for dried pears. If all goes well, you can go back later and recover it. The lower profile and improved movement speed will make it worth it. Practice dropping your backpack and get fast at it. As I mentioned before, your character is essentially a rifleman, so you can't expect to be good at PvP without knowing some basic rifleman skills. You need to understand how to handle your weapon and shoot it with it accurately. Let's cover the very basics first. To load your weapon, hold R. If you have a full magazine in your inventory, you'll replace your current magazine with the full one. If you don't, you'll chamber another round. To unload it, remove the magazine, and then hold R. This will unchamber any rounds left in your weapon. To shoot your weapon, left click. To aim down your sights, press right click. To enter a high ready position, hold right click. The high ready makes your character move at a slower pace, but it enables us to approach situations with a wide field of vision and our weapon at the ready. Let's get a little more advanced. If you're new to tactical shooters, this might be a lot, so just bear with me. Every projectile in DayZ has values for velocity, mass, and penetration. Velocity is how quickly a bullet travels. Mass is how heavy that bullet is, and penetration is how well a bullet can penetrate or pass through various materials. Because projectiles have velocity and mass, we have to account for bullet drop whenever we plan to engage the enemy. Over longer ranges, bullets will begin to drop due to the force of gravity. This happens at shorter ranges with bullets with a low velocity. Pistol caliber such as 9x19, 45 ACP, etc. We generally have a maximum effective range of 50 to 100 meters with these calibers. Intermediate calibers such as 5.56x45mm or 5.45x39mm generally have a maximum effective range of 300 to 500 meters. Rifle calibers such as 7.62x54, 7.62x39, and 308 generally have a maximum effective range sitting around 750 to 1000 meters. In order to account for bullet drop, we need to either zero our weapon or perform a hasty calculation. Zeroing a weapon is done by pressing page up and page down. This adjusts our optic either up or down in relation to our weapon's bore to account for the distance we plan to shoot at. You can see that value represented here when we press page up or page down, indicating the distance your weapon is zeroed for. The average range of an engagement is 200 meters, so I generally leave my weapon zeroed there unless I'm intentionally taking longer shots. To conduct a hasty drop calculation, you need to estimate the distance you are from your target and place your crosshairs higher up to account for the drop. Some optics in DayZ have tools for this, such as dashes called mills. Each mill in an optic represents 100 meters of drop, so if your weapon is zeroed for 200 meters and your target is 500 meters away, you'll need to place the third mill on your target. For optics without mills, you'll need to take a shot and see where your bullet lands so you can adjust fire. This is where tracers can come in really handy. I call this Kentucky windage. This is all good information to have, especially if you plan on sniping or engaging targets from a distance. But how do we measure that distance? The longer you measure distance, eventually you'll get a decent enough feel for it to eyeball it. Until then, it's handy to keep a rangefinder on you. As long as you have batteries, the rangefinder will tell you how far away a target is in meters. If you know where you are, you can also use a map. You can also estimate range with your iron sights or close combat optic. Place your optic directly below your target. If it covers the entirety of your target, you're over 150 meters away from your target. Some optics in DayZ also have a built-in system for range estimation. If you're wondering what that hill-shaped thing in your optic was, this is for you. Place your target between the bottom line and the curved line on top. At whatever point your target fits between these two lines, that's your distance. It'll give you a numerical value. If all else fails, use this estimation method. Think, how far could this possibly be? Then think, how close could this possibly be? Meet those two numbers in the middle. Generally, it'll be a pretty accurate guess. Weapons can also fail you. Weapons maintenance is extremely important for effective weapons handling. The more damaged a weapon is, the more likely it is to jam. A jam will cause your weapon to cease functioning. To prevent this, make sure you always have a weapons cleaning kit and keep all of your weapons in good condition. To clear a jam, hold R until it is cleared. I hope I didn't lose you there. Let's move on to the good stuff. First, we'll cover movement techniques. We'll break this down into two categories, rural and urban. DayZ has one eternal rule. Whoever is seen first loses the fight. So all of our movement techniques are going to be focused on maximizing two things, cover and concealment. Cover is anything that can stop bullets, such as concrete barriers or thicker trees. Concealment is anything that doesn't stop bullets, such as shrubbery, grass, or thinner walls. Rural movement is simple. First, stay off the roads. Roads are just player highways, and every time you travel down one, you're rolling the dice on getting spotted first. Try and travel off-road, and minimize the time you spend in open fields. We call these open areas LDAs, for linear danger area. Travel through tree lines and along the bottoms of ravines to minimize your exposure. You should always be within arm's reach of cover or concealment. We also want to avoid skylining. Skylining is when your body is silhouetted against the light of the sky, which naturally draws the human eye's attention. To avoid this, never travel along the tops of hills. Mentally train yourself to conduct a military crest. A military crest is when you travel further down the hill. Just far enough down the hill where you aren't skylining, but high up enough where you still have some visibility of the top of the hill. This can give you an advantage in situational awareness and keep you from getting seen first. Urban terrain is a little trickier to navigate. As with our first big rule, stay off of roads as much as possible. Stay inside of buildings or in the back alleys of towns. Roads are where less experienced players navigate the city, and more experienced players lie in wait looking for easy kills. Also try to avoid open doors and windows as much as possible. If you must pass an open door, do so from as far away as possible. When passing a window, crouch or crawl to minimize exposure time. Move from cover to cover in the city, pausing periodically to scan around you and make sure you aren't being watched. Never sit out in the open, anywhere. And in any terrain, make sure you practice situational awareness. This basically amounts to keeping your head on a swivel, checking behind you and around you periodically, just generally knowing what's going on around you. You have free look. Use it. Now on to the real juicy stuff, tactics. We'll only cover the basics that you need to know as an individual. Team-based tactics take more coordination, and we'll cover that in a future video. Because DayZ maps are so huge, you'll likely not be in a firefight in the same location very often. There isn't any sort of game sense, map data, or meta to know about map location and angles. Just common sense and easily repeated drills that you can conduct anywhere under pressure. I'll cover 2 of those basic drills today. Both of them take practice, and it's good to devote time to dry running them. I promise it can be worth the effort. A lot of players get some nasty tunnel vision in a fight, and knowing and practicing what to do ahead of time can give you a distinct edge. Seconds matter. These drills will be based on some common principles: fire superiority and positioning. Fire superiority is essentially sending more accurate rifle fire towards the enemy than they're sending at you. If you can attain fire superiority, you're probably winning. If not, you should probably disengage. Positioning is exactly how it sounds, knowing where to move and when to move. Focus on moving from cover to cover and trying to work on the flanks of the enemy. Only move when you're relatively confident they won't shoot you, such as when they can't see you or they have to stop to clear a jam. The first drill we'll cover is the contact drill. The contact drill is what you should do every single time you get shot at. The absolute first thing we want to do is shoot back. Not a lot, but enough to make the enemy momentarily reconsider their actions. 1 to 2 shots in the enemy's general direction will hopefully do the trick. The next thing you need to do is haul ass to your nearest cover and drop your backpack. If unavailable, concealment will have to do in a pinch. The enemy has already seen you and made the unfortunate life decision to shoot at you. That means he has the advantage, and wherever you were standing when you took fire is a kill zone. You need to GTFO and reposition. You should continue to reposition periodically, moving to your next nearest position of cover. After you've repositioned, now you need to start thinking for yourself a little bit. Play to your strengths. If you have a rifle that's better at longer ranges, start moving cover to cover backwards to put some distance between you and the enemy. Inversely, if you have a rifle that's better suited for short to medium range engagements, try moving cover to cover and returning fire in an effort to get your assailant to pause shooting at you. You should always be working into your enemy's flank. Successfully flanking an enemy will give you a distinct advantage. After the firefight is over, make sure to reposition and scan for a good while. Preferably until your heart stops pounding. Keep your head on a swivel, stay hidden, and see if any friends you might have had come looking for you. Never run straight to the body to loot, and don't forget to recover your backpack. The second drill we'll cover is the break contact drill. This is for when you realize you're vastly outnumbered or outgunned, you fucked up, and you need to GTFO real quick. Trying to fight a numerically superior foe will usually result in you being flanked and killed. To break contact, the first thing you should do is return fire and find cover like before. If you have epinephrine, now's the time to pop it. If not, go ahead and drop that heavy backpack of yours. If you have smoke and the time to pop it, pop it. Any concealment is going to be your friend here. Next, you're going to very quickly shoot at the enemy, and then sprint away from the enemy to your next position of cover. Rinse and repeat this process until you've hopefully covered enough distance and you're far enough away that they aren't shooting at you or aren't shooting accurately at you, and then you want to hightail it back into the woods as fast as your athletic shoes will take you. Sometimes, being good at PvP just means making it out alive with a fair amount of your gear intact. Whatever you do, do something. Doing nothing and standing in a kill zone trying to play duck hunt is a death sentence. And above all else, be prepared to die. Gear fear kills. There's no easy solution to be good at PvP. There's no way to be a pro in a game like this. Sometimes you die, and that's okay. You won't always be able to prevent it. Just learn from every death and move on. Experience is the best teacher. Learn how to exercise violence of action. Violence of action essentially means playing aggressively. You don't want to be the guy to get pushed or flanked. You want to be the hunter, not the hunted. Within the bounds of common sense, it's generally in your best interest to play as aggressively as you reasonably can. In a firefight, there's a high likelihood of death, so you need to put the pressure on your assailant, not the other way around. Don't let your enemy run the battle rhythm. Remind them that you're in charge, and that you control the flow of battle. And that's all the time we have for this video. I hope I was able to teach all of you a bit about PvP, and I'll catch you in the next video in our series, where we'll be covering some more advanced concepts. Good luck out there.